All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of
Just
our
a,
Another Global
just a
Cross
minute,
Niger for
Victor.
Channels Beam. And today we're looking at expectations as well as factors that will shape 2016 for Nigeria. And joining me today to look at this, first of all, we have Mohammed Ahiru Aminu. He's calling from Milton Keynes in the United Kingdom. Thanks for coming on board. We can't hear you, Aminu.
Hello?
Yeah, Alex, we can hear you.
I'm using my laptop now, so I think it's a lot better for me.
All right, very well then.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Aminu, we still can't hear you. Okay, it's fine. You can just wave.
Can you hear me?
All right, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Can you bring your laptop down a bit?
For me?
This way?
No, yeah, this is okay. Yeah, for Aminu. Yeah, this is okay.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. All right, thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you.
All right. All right, we also have Hamzat Lawal. Hamzat, thanks for coming on the program.
Always a pleasure.
And we have Alex Obichina. Alex is calling from Abuja, as well as Hamza. Thanks also for coming on the program.
Thank you very much, Victor.
All right. Let me just start with you, Alex. And I also would like to welcome all those who are watching on our YouTube channel, watching from the YouTube stream. We also see you. You can also be a part of this conversation. Just send us your tweets. You can just tweet at Channels Beam, or you could just tweet at me. That's at Victor_MBIDI. But Alex, let me just start with you. It's a new year and a lot of expectations. Nigerians have a lot of expectations. For you, what do you think should be done? I mean, what would you be looking at for the year 2016?
As a young Nigerian, the expectations are obvious. Nigerians have just come out from an election year that is filled with a lot of promises. A new government and a new administration that Nigerians are looking up to and expecting a lot from. And as a young Nigerian, my expectations are a government that will consolidate on what it has started, the fight on corruption, the sustenance on agriculture, a lot across the sectorials, from wide-ranging reforms from educational to the real sector, the banking sector. So gradually the expectations are there. And as a young Nigerian who is just coming back into the country, I am of the belief that with the recent trend and what has been recorded in the past few months of this administration, I think the administration is consolidating that gains. And the year 2016, though with stiffer economic policies, Nigerians will definitely have to adjust to some austerity measures, because this is not just Nigeria facing it, but it's generally a global trend. So I feel, as a young Nigerian, the hopes are there. I'm very optimistic that the government will obviously muscle up, face up the challenges, and gradually will stabilize to a position whereby we'll find ourselves in comparison with other communities of nations in the world. These are my hopes and aspirations for a government to meet up the expectations of the youths in the country.
Yeah, very well, Alex. You have high hopes, like you just said, and you want these hopes to be met. Already, you're saying the government is meeting up, is consolidating on some of the things that it has started. But I'll come back to you on some of that. And Hamza, let me just come to you, also calling from Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory, that is Abuja. And of course, I know you have a very strong affiliation with the promotion of the Sustainable Development Goals. Of course, it's no longer millennium, now it is Sustainable Development Goals. What would you like to see? Because already we are aware that the government has budgeted some amount of money, to see that the SDGs are properly, implemented. But what would be your own expectations? Alex just made his own, he spoke at length of what he wants to see. But what would you want to see? What would you like the government to do for you in 2016?
Well, it's quite an exciting year because this year we now have a budget 0.8 trillion naira, and of course, coming from a year of free and fair elections, for us this year we We want where for us, what drives the implementation of our budget or the SDGs, that's the Sustainable Development Goal, is transparency and accountability. We want to see every agency of government being open, being responsive, and ensure that every kobo that goes to the government from our tax system are accounted for. Because over time, we've seen high level of corruption from both public and private institutions. But moving forward, for us, we believe to ascertain the Sustainable Development Goals, we need to see openness, we need to see accountability and responsiveness from government, irrespective of where we find ourselves. And of course, how we are able to actualize or spend the capital expenditure is quite important. Over time, citizens' voices have not been captured in implementations of public policies. And we want to see a change in respect of that, where we have town hall meeting or we have engagement both offline and online with government and capture citizens' input in implementing public policies.
All right, very well then. We hope that we do see that in the year. Okay, your video is back. We hope that we do see all these expectations, particularly in regards to what you just made mention of. But again, I would like to implore those of you watching on our YouTube channel, please do tweet your thoughts and your comments to us using the hashtag expectations2016. You can tweet them to me at Victor_MBIDI, or you can tweet them to a Channels Beam and also to a Channels TV. Well, we also have Mohammed Ahir Aminu. Mohammed, you're coming from Milton Keynes in the United Kingdom. Alex and Hamzat have, expatiated on what they want to see, but for you, I see you're an academic, and you always preach about how the academic system is here and abroad. What would be your expectations, especially, looking at in comparison to what is obtainable, where you are and what it is here in Nigeria?
I think personally, Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, personally, I think the expectations of Nigerians are quite obvious, as much as they are. Thankfully, they are the election campaign promises of the Buhari-led government. And I think the major highlights are that Nigeria should be secure, corruption should be trimmed down, and there should be jobs for the unemployed youth. That is, the economy should be quite more vibrant and more bolstered. First of all, we must remember that we live in a country whose sovereignty and people are threatened and on a daily basis by the world's deadliest terrorist organization, which is Boko Haram. So as much as defeating Boko Haram is going to be quite a very tough task, Nigerians, I think, expect the government to do something about it so as to make Nigeria a better place. As we all know, we cannot record any meaningful development in all facets of our lives if we are not well secured. So I think, first and foremost, we expect the government to defeat Boko Haram, no matter what it will take. And secondly, I think that Nigerians are also expecting this government to formulate and implement perhaps effective government policies and programs which will address the root causes of insecurity in the country, so that we don't have another Boko Haram springing up after this one. So if we can achieve this, I think it is going to be a major victory for Nigeria and Nigerians. Secondly, on the issue of corruption in government, I think the administration of President Buhari has achieved and is achieving quite a lot. As a first step, I think we are all aware that the implementation of the Treasury single account has reduced quite a tremendous amount of leakages in government, and it will go a long way in effectively controlling government cash balances. So the fight against corruption, insecurity are two major things that must be taken care of before we proceed to other aspects of the economy. But we should not allow ourselves to focus too much on this so that we will be doing this at the expense of looking at other sectors of the economy.
All right, very well. One thing that you and Alex agree on is the fact that the president's war on corruption is making headways. Yes, we also look at that. Alex, let me also come back to you now. You just heard Mohammed Aminu. He's saying that the war on corruption is also, saying that the government has done well in that aspect. But there are other aspects. Are there any other aspects that you would like to see more progress, so to speak, now progress to match that we have seen in the war against corruption?
Yeah, thank you, Victor.
Yeah.
I sincerely share in the views of Mohammed. In my views, I think the government should actually prioritize more on terms of education, because when you build the capacity of the younger generation, you build a nation. I'm convinced with that, and I believe the government is also looking in that direction, because when you look through the budget presentation by the President Muhammadu Buhari, you discovered a huge chunk was actually allocated, the lion's share was actually allocated to the education sector, in the tone of about 396 billion naira out of the 6.08 trillion budget presentation he made to the joint session of the National Assembly. I also think another critical sector the government should actually look into is in the area of the health sector. People will be looking at wide-ranging health reforms that will cater for the welfare of people. How well can the present administration consolidate on the gains of reducing child's mortality rates and primary health care, because that is actually the basis. When people in the rural areas can actually get good access to good quality health care medications, I think it will go a long way. In education, I think what has characterized our educational system from the tertiary institution is actually government striking a balance on how well we can have a stable academic calendar system. So I think the present administration will have to double its efforts where promises have been made in the past to cater for the welfares of university union leaders, union associations, and the rest of them. I think government should actually see how well they can meet up that. Then as a Nigerian, also with what Mr. Aminu said, you see, you cannot achieve sustainable development without an environment of peace and stability. We must have a country called Nigeria for us to carry out any infrastructural or any developmental project. So I think a burning issue and expectation which will continually rest on the onus of government is the need for us to have peace in Nigeria. And how do we have peace in Nigeria? It is by the government continuing its promises and fight and vigor towards eradicating terrorism, because this is a common phenomenon that will consume everybody when everybody doesn't put his hand. All hands must be on deck. Individuals, civil society organizations, student unions, everybody has to really put hands on deck, come out and condemn what is wrong. And people keep citing government. But we as individuals, to a large extent, don't put ourselves in the picture. We keep resting everything in the onus of government. So the moment everybody knows that government is a collective will, not just an individual or an administration's will, the moment individuals start contributing their quota, I think the country will be a better place for all of us. And these expectations are not what is not achievable. Other countries are working. So Nigeria must work when we collectively put our hands in deck. Thank you.
Well, I do share in your optimism that Nigeria will work, but you say for that to happen, we must collectively put our hands together to make sure that this happens. Again, I would like to remind for those of you watching on our YouTube channel, you can send your comments and your thoughts. The hashtag is expectations2016. We will share your comments as well on this platform. But in the meantime, Hamza, let me come to you. Alex made mention of, the government looking at the welfare of Nigerians. And one of the cardinal promises of the government was also, the sharing of stipends to those who are, teaming on a number of unemployed Nigerians. That's the 5,000 naira thereabout stipend that the government. That is a step in the right direction. I want to believe you agree, but if you don't, what do you think, or what else do you think we can be doing, to improve the welfare of people in Nigeria? Okay, hold on, Hamza, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can. All right, go ahead.
Oh, fantastic. So the 5,000 naira for unemployed young people. First of all, what's the statistics of unemployed young people? Do we have the database of young people that are currently unemployed in Nigeria? Can the Bureau of Statistics come out with that data set so that policies or policy intervention?
Sorry, Hamza, if let me just cut you short. Your camera is kind of tilting, so if you can centralize it so that we have a central picture of you.
Are we good now?
Yeah, we're good. All right. So you were talking about the statistics of unemployed people in the country.
Yes, statistics of unemployed young people, because some people would argue that 5,000 naira is too small, while some would say it's too much. Because if we don't get it right, every young person in Nigeria is going to be unemployed, believe you me. So we need to get it right in terms of providing data or statistics around unemployed young people. And of course, when we talk about job creation, it's not for government to provide jobs. It is for government to put in place policies that will now create an enabling environment for job creation in Nigeria. The private sector is meant to provide jobs for teaming unemployed young people. We want to see policy where we would see more social enterprise that would spring up. In Lagos today, we have organizations like WeCyclers, Recycle Point, who transform waste to wealth and have been able to create jobs for teaming unemployed young people in Lagos State. Why can't we have a national framework around recycling in Nigeria so that in every state we would have social entrepreneurs who would spring up and provide jobs? Access to finance is one key thing, because one challenge that young people who are young and who are running businesses are having, one key challenge is access to loan and finance to finance their businesses. We also need to look at our tax system. How has our tax system affected small businesses or medium-term businesses that are growing? Because if you want to empower people, you need to look at it and curb this diversifying of our economy. We all know that Nigeria's economy is dependent on oil and gas, and we know that the crude oil market as of today is going down. How can we, as a country, diversify our economy? For me, if you ask me, the vibrant agent of government is the environmental sector. How can we transform the environmental sector? Today, over 60% of Nigerians are not connected to the national grid. How can we service these 60% of young people? And as of today, our power sector is not as strong as it is, because even the energy we generate cannot feed into the national grid. We can infuse all these energies into the national grid. How can we start investing into that sector can actually help us boom our economy and actually feed that 60% of young of the population that are not connected to the national grid? Nigeria today, annually, we lost 95,000 women due to indoor air pollution. In November 2014, 9.2 provide clean cook stove of 750,000 and wonder bags. What has happened to that money? My colleague also stated about peace in Nigeria. Today we have IDPs, that's internally displaced person, over 3.5 million IDPs in Nigeria. And as of today, billions of naira has gone to NEMA to curtail the IDPs. But nobody has really documented how much has NEMA accessed, what are the impact of these funds, and the people living in this IDP, have these funds actually transformed their lives? So far, so good. So it's quite important that we have access to this data, because data is the one that would shape public policies and even help us to get international support.
All right. Let me just hold you to some of the things you said. I mean, talking about accessing this data, there is in place, the Freedom of Information Bill, which which gives you the freedom to request for these data, these documents. Have you tried any of that?
Yes. So my organization has written to NEMA. We've written a Freedom of Information a letter to NEMA, which is meant to take 7 days. But up to this moment, they have not officially responded to us. We were at their office last week to get more information on our letter. And what we got was that the letter information has gone to state NEM agencies, that's the state agencies, to gather information on, because our letter was quite clear. How much has NEMA accessed so far? How many IDPs camp do we have in Nigeria? Because we have both NEMA-controlled IDP camps and there are private-controlled IDP camps. Are they registered under NEMA, and how is NEMA coordinating IDPs in Nigeria? Okay, fine. Also, from this money you have been able to access both national funds and international donor funds. What have you used this money for, and how impactful are these funds? And according to there's this lady we met at, sorry, I can't mention him. There's a lady we met at the legal department who said our letter has now gone to all the state agencies to collate the information. Then we wonder, is it that NEMA does not have a communication channel with her state agencies? Why is it that it's now that they want to start gathering this information? So what is the information that gives NEMA that authority to act on the funds that they have so far gotten from both private and public domestic funds? So it really baffles us. And up to this moment, NEMA has not officially responded, and we hope that NEMA responds to this, because as much as we want to tackle insurgents, we need to also look at the internally displaced persons. And of course, these people are agitating that they want to go back to their communities. Are we even ready to take them back to their community? We need to remediate this community, because the ecosystem in this community has been affected. How, as a country, how can we ensure that both the economic aspect and the environment aspect of this community is being revamped, so that they can go and live like every other Nigeria with equal rights and equal opportunities?
All right, very well, Hamza. I would also like to. I'll come back to you again later on in the show. But I mean, let me just come to you. I mean, some of the things that Hamza is talking about is the issue of bringing now. That brings into question the issue of accountability. If you're saying it takes them a long while, to gather this information, whereas they should have a central information system where they have in their office or in their organization how they use or how they utilize and how they spread these monies. But now, again, coming back to the issue of fight against corruption, the president has made it clear there will be no scapegoats, and he's pushing and he's pushing and he's pushing, and if things like this keep coming up, as Hamza is saying, well, what should we be doing? Hold on, we can't hear you, Aminu. Oh no, I think it's can you unmute yourself?
Oh,
All right, we can
so
hear you. Yeah,
can you hear me?
yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. Going back to the issue of corruption, I think one more step that the government took against the fight uh, is their clear resolve and commitment on the issue of reclaiming Nigeria's lost resources. I think this is one aspect of the government's action that overwhelming number of Nigerians are very glad about. The fact is that so much has been taken away from Nigeria in the past. I remember in 2013, I was here in the UK. I read a report on the Daily Mail, which says that since gaining independence in 1960, Nigeria has received $400 billion in aid, an amount that was said to be about 6 times what the US pumped into reconstructing the whole of Western Europe after the Second World War. You can imagine that. So that to me is terrific. And if that is money that we got from aid, which was still not well utilized, we may not want to find out how much government funds generated from within Nigeria that was stealing, that were stolen. Sorry, but I think that far from that, the Buhari government is doing very well in the sense that as much as possible, the government has shown that they are here to resolve and to reclaim Nigeria's assets. And after that, maybe we will then be more interested in looking at youth unemployment. While we are not too sure of the exact figures of the unemployment rate in Nigeria, we are sure that there are no jobs out there for the youth. And as Hamza said, the government should not be providing jobs. The private sector should provide jobs. But the government should be able to make an environment where jobs will be provided by the private sector. We do not have electricity. We cannot provide jobs if we do not have electricity. The electricity generation figures are not too impressive here. So we need to revive our industries. Be they raw material industries, manufacturing industries, service industries, and other type of industries. But we need to get electricity. We need to stabilize the country in terms of security. We need to diversify our economy. We need to think about exporting goods from Nigeria so that we can earn foreign exchange. We bolster our economy and provide less dependence on oil. So if this government can do this, I think largely the government will be said to have been successful.
All right. So I mean, you're talking about Nigeria exporting stuff now. If you, as we're all aware right now that there is some form of restriction on the use of ATM cards abroad, and it's been attributed to shortage in forex. If you're advocating that we should begin to export, which will in turn, bring about more forex in the country, what should we be doing? I mean, because if you just say export, it's like a big umbrella. What other mineral resource or what other natural resource do we have in Nigeria that we can export to bring in foreign exchange?
I think that there are a lot of solid mineral resources all over the country. Sorry, the audio is not too clear. Can you hear me now?
Okay, yeah, I can hear you now.
So I think that there are a lot of solid mineral resources all over Nigeria which could be exported. Everywhere you go to, you have, for example, you have limestone, you have steel, you have gold. In fact, there are 4 gold provinces in Nigeria. You have gold in Mina Birningwari area. You have gold in Ilesha. All these are things that we should look at and see if we can export. But the major problem I think Nigeria has is that because we are too much into the oil dependency, we haven't yet outlined the amount of other resources that we've got. So we need to have a framework where we will say, okay, this is what we have got. But far from solid minerals, I think that we can export anything that we think we have got, which other people do not have. For example, I once read where Lamido Sanusi, in his heydays when he was writing in the newspapers, he said Nigeria should think about exporting things like mian kuka, which we do have in abundance, and other African countries do not have. So we can look at exporting things that we think matter and things that we think do not matter, because they matter to other people we are exporting that to. On the issue of ATM withdrawals, which has been restricted, I think the president made it clear that that will be just a short-term measure. When the economy is much stabilized, things will get going better.
All right, I mean, we would have to wait and see how that plays out. But while you were making that comment of exporting Mian Kuka, Alex was kind of giggling. I wasn't too sure.
Yes.
So, Alex, I
It's
don't
all
know.
right.
Yeah, I don't know. Just in wrapping up this conversation now, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, my expectation as a young Nigerian will be towards a government that should look inward, because over the years we have always looked outward. Why? Because the oil revenue, unquote, was stable. So the projections that is that even crude oil prices could drop as far as below $20 per barrel this year if care is not taken. So I think the government has a big onus, in its goals to tackle. And I want to salute its drive, because when I heard of the dry season rice and wheat farming and the CBN intervention, SME intervention funding of 40 billion naira, with the president flagged up in Benin KB, I was very much impressed, because these are projects that we should expect. You understand? It's applaudable for you to build the capacity of over 200,000 farmers in this. If these things gets to them, I think is important. The government should also look into the real sector. Over the years, the real sector has been something that has been juggled. I'll call it a game of semantics. You hear figures and projections, this GDP, this from the manufacturing and so on. I think this is an opportunity for the government to actually fulfill their campaign promises. How can these SME funds be assessed? How can manufacturing sectors access these funds? You understand it? Having funds, 200 billion, 500 billion set out for small, medium enterprises, it doesn't make sense when people cannot access it. So I think also with the level in the ICT sector, government will also be consolidating the grounds on providing enabling environment for this organization, for operators, and also carrying out very strict regulatory disposition towards operators, because over the years a lot of decays has happened. I salute the drive of the government with the recent pronouncement on some operators. That is commendable. My general expectation as a young Nigerian is to see a country where everybody will have an enabling environment to thrive, express yourself, live happily, and have those little basic social amenities that can give you a sense of belonging to say that, yes, I'm a citizen. And we citizens must also perform our civic responsibility. Pay your taxes when due, because we keep calling on government. Sometimes people don't even know, look inwards on themselves. So I think the government is demonstrating it. And I believe, change is a gradual process. It takes time. It trickles down because over the years, a lot has been done, but more needs to be consolidated upon. So I think the new government, I don't want to go into the figures, but the austerity measures that have been put in place, the cutting of the spending of government, and the treasury single account, these are all measures I feel that in the near periods, towards the last quarter of this year, I see some relaxing on some of these foreign policies, especially like withdrawal on bank ATMs. I know it's really not easy, but mind you, if we continue depleting our foreign reserves, at the end of the day, we end up becoming a banana republic that we don't have anything. So I think if the government consolidates on what it's doing, but with a focus on the effect, the truth is that you can never have a meaningful change and a meaningful impact on people without people going through hardship. So if this is the price we must really pay for us to find ourselves in that position where we sit among peers in the Committee of Nations, I crave the indulgence of Nigerians to kindly bear with it, and in the near future, everything will definitely be all right.
All right, Alex, thank you very much. Hamza, let me also come to you to get your last word because we're closing this hangout in just a few minutes.
Well, Aminu spoke about gold. I want our government to see an opportunity therein. In 2010, the price of gold in the international market went very up. And then you had gold mining in Zamfara State. Now again, we have lead poison to artisanal and small-scale mining of gold, which has killed over 40 children. I want to call on the government to see this as an opportunity. We need to control the use of mercury, which is the cause of inflation. But by and large, we need to look at the judicial system. As much as we want to develop as a country, we need to adhere to the rule of law. We need to ensure that the rule of law plays a critical role in our development space, whereby the judiciary is respected, because we can't have a court ruling and don't have the executive implement. It's quite important that the judiciary plays its role and maintains its independence in governance.
You were kind of breaking while you made that. Since your internet was kind of shaking, it was not very stable. Can you come again, just for clarity?
Okay, like I was saying, in 2010, the price of gold went up in the international market. Where we had artisanal and small-scale mining in Zamfara State, which now 490 children. And our government needs to understand that as much as we need to diversify our economy, we also need to put in place policy to regulate other sectors of governance. And of course, we need to regulate the use of mercury in these communities. By and large, as much as we want to grow as a country united, we need to ensure that we adhere to the rule of law. The judiciary has a key role to play. We need to ensure that they need to act to the executive, ensure that the judiciary are independent. And as much as we want to progress, we need to ensure that there is equity, irrespective of where you find financial. Once there's equity, then we would have social justice.
All right, very well. Aminu is saying that he can't hear, but Aminu, I guess that would have to be from your own side because here it is fine. I think Alex can hear.
Okay,
and also.
I can hear now.
All right. So Aminu, let's also just hear from you your last word before we close this.
Okay. Lastly, I agree with Alex that Nigerians expect a lot from this government. For example, in the face of falling oil prices, Nigerians will expect economic diversification so as to attain long-term economic growth. We shouldn't just rely on earnings from oil production, as this will no doubt jeopardize sustainable growth. So the government should outline clear policies, policy guidelines, and then they should suggest firm commitments on sound economic micro policies. There should be investment in infrastructure. There should be enactment of very strong institutions that will stand the test of time. By and large, I think there is hope for Nigeria, and we look forward to a 2016 that is full of God's blessings.
All right. Yes, we do hope. We do hope for God's blessings in the year 2016, not only on we citizens but also on the president, because as it stands, he is the leader, and we have to follow so that he delivers his campaign promises to the good and to the letter. But that's all we have to leave it here at this point in time. Mohammed Dairu Aminu, thank you very much. You're calling from the United Kingdom. Hamzat Lawal, thank you as well. You're calling from Nigeria's federal capital. That's Abuja. And Alex Obiecina, you're also calling from Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory. That's Abuja. It's been a very interesting and very exciting conversation this morning. Young Nigerians talking about how and what they expect to see from the government and things that needs to be consolidated upon. That's things that are already in place that needs to be consolidated upon. But that's how we live it up today on this edition of Channels Being Google Plus Hangout. Thank you all of you for watching. We do see all of you also watching on our YouTube channel. We say a very big thank you for being part and parcel of the whole conversation. My name is Victor Matthias. Thank you once again.